Hi, I'm Heather Dewey-Hagborg, and I steal DNA from strangers, like you. Hair, gum, cigarette butts that I just collected outside the door, stray hairs. Anything that you touch, really, I can probably get some kind of trace from. So for the past 3.5 years, I've been researching and developing a body of work that I'm grouping under the heading of genetic insecurities. So it looks at both the insecurity of our genetic information, as well as our insecurity culturally as to what that genetic information means. What does it say about us? How do we read it? How is it interpreted? And how is its cultural authority constructed? And to me, perhaps even more importantly, how is DNA vulnerable? How is it insecure, subjective, hackable, forgeable, spoofable? So the inspiration for this research actually came to me from a single hair. In 2012, I was sitting in my psychiatrist's office, like so many New Yorkers, and I was staring at a generic print on the wall, and I noticed that the glass covering the print was cracked, and that there was a hair stuck in that crack. And I sat there for 50 minutes, staring at this hair, just wondering whose hair it might be, and what I could learn about them from it. And so when I left, I couldn't help noticing things like this all around me. Cigarette butts and chewing gum on the sidewalk, saliva on the rim of a coffee cup, hairs all over the place. And the funny thing is that once you start thinking about it, you start seeing evidence everywhere. Public bathrooms, sidewalks, bars, people are leaving their DNA all over the place, all the time, without giving it a second thought. So it occurred to me that our physical bodies had become a liability, as we constantly face the possibility of shedding this information in public and leaving artifacts which anyone could come along and mine for information. And so once I thought of this, I just couldn't get this idea out of my head. I had to know how much could I, an amateur biohacker, not a biological scientist by any means, how much could I learn about someone from some little bit of themselves that they accidentally left behind? And what exactly does our DNA say about us? So it turns out that it says a whole lot, or at least there are a lot of attempts to read a great deal from DNA. Who we are, where we're from, what we look like, what we act like, what the future of our health might be. Researchers are even attempting, with some success, to infer our last names, surnames, from DNA. So DNA contains not only the instructions to make each and every one of us, but also deeply personal and easily misunderstood or misconstrued clues about who we are. So the first project that I worked on in this kind of body of work is Stranger Visions, and I'm going to narrate a little video that sort of walks you through the process of the piece. So it started in Brooklyn and New York City more generally. And so I began by actually collecting these things, much like this. Sort of going about my daily routine and keeping my eyes open. And you can do this in New York and no one will notice even. And then I took the samples that I collected back to a community laboratory called GenSpace, which is in downtown Brooklyn. And it's a space where anyone can come in and learn the basics of biotechnology. So anyone can go in and learn how to extract DNA, how to amplify it, how to analyze it. And so that's what I did. So I would take these samples, and I'd go through a DNA extraction protocol, which is much like following a recipe. It's just a little bit more precise. And then I would take the DNA that came out of that process and amplify it and look at specific regions that coded for traits that I was interested in. So these were things that were related specifically to appearance. I wanted to create these actual portraits of people whose samples I was collecting. So I attempted to learn as much as I could about what these people might look like. And I should mention that I had absolutely no experience going into this in the lab. This was an entire learning process for me. And so the scientists at GenSpace really helped me walk through this process. So I would amplify the DNA using polymerase chain reaction, and then I would send these results to be sequenced, and then what I would get back are basically these sets of text files filled with A, T, C's, and G's, which I would bring into the computer. So I have more of a background in computer science, and specifically working with surveillance systems and facial recognition. And so what I did was I took these algorithms that were designed for three-dimensional facial recognition, for parameterizing a 3D model of a face along different kinds of axes, and I reappropriated that to generate different kinds of faces based on the DNA data. Then I took those 3D faces and exported them and 3D printed them full color, life size, using the Z-Corp powder printer. And they get dipped in this kind of super glue-like material to strengthen them. And then I exhibit the 3D portraits along with the sample that I extracted the DNA from, information about when and where it was collected, photographs of the location, and the actual data that I analyzed from the DNA as well. So I was sort of in the middle of working on this project, and suddenly it just exploded in the media. From CNN to the BBC, I found myself talking about this work everywhere before I even felt like it was finished. But what was interesting about that was that it soon became clear to me that the media actually completed the piece, because the work was meant to draw a viewer into a kind of critique, to provoke a questioning. But I realized I could reach way more people through mass media than I ever could through the gallery. And the work made a lot of people very angry. So I received a lot of hate mail for this and later projects as well. Because I think Stranger Visions asks some really uncomfortable questions. Is it and should it be legal to analyze someone's DNA without their permission? Is it okay for certain groups to do that? Police, hospitals, scientific researchers, corporations, family members, artists. Right now, today, all of those groups engage in that practice. So police surreptitiously analyze DNA from suspects' trash, from things they leave behind. Criminal DNA databases are expanding rapidly. Law enforcement routinely profiles individuals convicted of even petty crimes, speeding in some places, and are tending towards extracting DNA from individuals who are even simply suspected of a crime. You don't have to have done anything wrong to end up in one of these databases for life. And let's remember that these databases are not racially neutral. Men of color, in particular, are radically overrepresented. Hospitals extract DNA from newborns without asking. And in both these cases, the police and hospitals, these samples are stored, often indefinitely, under varying conditions of legality. Scientific researchers and corporations build entire careers and businesses from data acquired in very questionable ways, drawing on cell lines that might be derived from individuals with no idea that they were even taken. So this is a picture of Henrietta Lacks, who's a famous instance of a widespread and very problematic practice. And surreptitious paternity testing is cheaply and easily available on the internet. And there's even a mobile paternity truck called Who's Your Daddy that roams the street of major US cities looking for customers questioning their lineage. And then, of course, there's the surveillance that we opt into. Much like in the electronic realm, direct-to-consumer testing is growing rapidly in popularity. This is the company 23andMe that basically you sign up online, they send you a tube, you spit in it, and then they send you back a profile that tells you more about you. So companies like Google are investing heavily in biotechnology, creating protocols for hosting and sharing biological data, and are very cozy with companies like 23andMe. And 23andMe is the largest direct-to-consumer genetic testing service around. So is there any reason to think that our biological data won't go the same direction as all of our other electronic data? So, if we're entering, or perhaps are already existing in, an era with potential for mass genetic surveillance, how do we protect ourselves? Education and agitation for policy reform are two crucial components. But I also think we need to start developing new tools, instruments of counter-surveillance to protect our genetic privacy. We have encryption and, as we've seen, obfuscation methods to cover our digital tracks. So why not our genetic ones? So that's why I created Invisible. You might have seen it in the exhibit hall. It's the first ever tactical kit for your protection against these emerging threats to genetic privacy. So Invisible is a suite of two complementary products. The Erase Spray deletes 99.5% of DNA that you leave in public, while the Replace Spray cloaks biological material with a kind of DNA noise. Erase is best for hard surfaces, maybe wiping off your water bottle or glass, while Replace is going to work better for soft or sensitive ones. You could spray it on a cigarette butt, or think clothing or bed sheets. Invisible is real. It's a real product. It really works. And it's for sale at the New Museum in New York City, both physically and online. So you can go today, right now, and you can go buy your own box of Invisible. But today, for the first time, in this room with you, I'm making it all open source. So the recipe and instructions for how you can make your own DNA invisibility spray are now, as of today, as of last night at midnight, freely available on a website that I'm developing with some really fantastic collaborators and contributors called byanonymous.me. So this is what the site looks like. You can go there right now. And the first thing that you'll see is that I attempt to make a preliminary definition of what I mean by biological surveillance. So this is bigger than just genetics or DNA. That's just one piece. Biological surveillance is the means by which biological science is used to track, monitor, analyze, and generally turn bodies into data. So it's the extraction of DNA and microbes from skin, nails, hair, and body fluids. It's the analysis of identifying body parts like faces, fingerprints, irises. And it's the tracking of life itself by body heat, pulse, perspiration, and involuntary movement. It's the vulnerability that we each face every day by the situation of being human, by having a body. So we believe that privacy should be a choice. And By Anonymous Me is the first step towards protecting biological privacy through the creation of a community to openly discuss, debate, research, and hopefully develop some potential solutions through art, science, technology, policy, and theory. So what is it, practically speaking? It's a blog with a rotating cast of writers. The first post, which is up right now, is an interview that I did with Timothy Campbell, who's a professor at Cornell, who just edited a really fantastic collection on biopolitics. And there's more coming soon on the legal end, an overview from my collaborators on legality, and specifically an in-depth piece on mandatory newborn testing. It's also a forum, so you can sign up and join in the discussion. And we've collected legal resources and supporting readings about the technical and also cultural contexts of these technologies. So it's kind of a wealth of information there and opportunities to get involved. But it's more than just a blog and a forum and a collection of links. It's also original content. It's where I posted the first official Bi-Anonymous guides for making your own invisible spray. And you're in luck being here today, because I collected these all into a booklet, and I brought some with me. I don't think there's quite enough for everyone, but I have stickers too. So I have stickers and also booklets that I'll pass out. So these tell you exactly step by step how can you extract your own DNA, how can you erase your DNA, and how can you make your obfuscation spray to cover it up. And these are on the website as well. So I just want to conclude by encouraging you to get involved. This site is sort of, it's from me, but I really want it to be more than just me. I want to get more people interested in actually working on these projects, on developing their own guides, on discussing this in the forum, posting to the blog. So if you have any interest in this, please come talk to me afterwards or drop me an email. And get involved with the project and be Bi-Anonymous.